The moment Nancy Mace opened her mouth, the room went still, as if the air itself had paused to watch what would unfold. Cameras flashed, reporters leaned forward, and a hush fell over the audience that felt heavier than any spotlight could create. Mace, confident and poised, believed she had the upper hand. She had rehearsed her points, sharpened her words, and assumed the nation would see her dominance. But then Jasmine Crockett spoke. One line, simple, precise, devastating. The words cut through the tension like a lightning bolt. Silence followed, then gasps, murmurs, whispers racing from one side of the hall to the other. Even Mace, the embodiment of calculated arrogance, faltered. Her confident posture stiffened, her smile faded, and for the first time, doubt flickered across her eyes. It wasn't just a debate anymore. It was a collision of two worlds. Crockett's calm authority, her unwavering dignity, and her command of truth clashed with Mace's carefully constructed image of power. The audience sensed it immediately. This was not a normal exchange. This was a turning point. Every eye, every camera, every heart in the room felt the weight of the moment. Crockett didn't raise her voice. She didn't shout or gesture wildly. She simply delivered a line that stripped Mace of her narrative, exposing arrogance in its purest form. The impact was electric, visible in the way people shifted in their seats, the way social media feeds would soon explode, the way whispers turned to astonished commentary. For Mace, it was a beginning of unraveling. For Crockett, it was validation of years of struggle, preparation, and courage. And for everyone watching, inside the room and across the country, it was a moment that demanded attention, disbelief, and reflection. The line had landed. The room held its breath. And what happened next would not just determine the debate. It would redefine the narrative of who truly commands respect, who commands the stage, and who America would remember long after the cameras stopped rolling. The air in the debate hall felt electric, charged with the unspoken understanding that what was happening was bigger than politics. It was a test of character, composure, and courage. For Nancy Mace, the goal was clear: assert dominance, project confidence, and control the narrative. Every word she had planned, every calculated smile, every point of rebuttal was meant to corner Jasmine Crockett, to make her falter under pressure. The stakes could not have been higher. For Crockett, the stakes were personal and profound. This was not simply about winning a debate or scoring points. It was about proving that integrity, preparation, and courage could outshine arrogance and theatrics. A single misstep could be amplified, twisted, and weaponized against her. But a measured response could shatter the assumptions about who belongs in power and who commands respect in a room where intimidation often masquerades as authority. Every glance, every pause, every breath mattered. The audience sensed it instinctively. Some leaned forward, their eyes wide, anticipating the confrontation that could define careers. Social media chatter began even before the cameras had captured the full exchange. Hashtags formed, memes started in thought, and pundits silently judged every micro-expression. America was watching, and they were waiting to see whether courage would prevail over calculated power. Crockett's preparation was meticulous. She had anticipated every attack, every attempt to unsettle her, every sneer and double entendre Mace might throw her way. But preparation alone wasn't enough. Composure had to meet conviction. She needed to respond in a way that not only defended her position, but also reframed the entire narrative. It was about demonstrating that authority can be challenged without chaos, that truth can silence bluster, and that dignity cannot be intimidated. As Mace pressed harder, her tone sharpening, the room felt the tension escalate. Each jab was met with Crockett's calm, deliberate responses, and the contrast could not have been starker. Mace's aggression hung like a storm cloud, while Crockett's unwavering calm was sunlight breaking through, a sign to viewers everywhere that strength is not volume, and dominance is not always what it seems. And just as the audience began to wonder if Mace would finally regain control, Crockett's expression hinted at the moment that would define the entire encounter. She wasn't rattled. She wasn't intimidated. She was poised, ready to deliver a response that would leave the nation stunned. Her one line poised to tip the scales and leave Mace speechless. The stage was set. The stakes had never been higher. And the nation, holding its collective breath, waited for that single moment of reckoning that would not just decide the debate, but send shockwaves far beyond the hall itself. Nancy Mace was no stranger to spotlight. From the very beginning of her political career, she had cultivated an image of poise, confidence, and unflinching authority. She knew how to command attention, how to deliver a line that could dominate headlines, and how to present herself as the embodiment of power. For many, she represented a force to be reckoned with, someone who could maneuver through political arenas with the precision of a seasoned strategist. Yet behind that polished exterior, there was a history of arrogance that often overshadowed substance. Critics describe her as someone who underestimated opponents, dismissing their abilities with a casual wave of condescension. She relied on her charm, her experience, and the aura of authority that accompanied her role, often mistaking it for invincibility. In debates, she had a habit of speaking over challengers, cutting them off before they could present their points, and using rhetorical flourishes to mask the absence of deeper engagement. Her career was punctuated with moments where overconfidence led to missteps. In interviews and public appearances, she occasionally misread the room, assuming that audiences would absorb her narrative without question. This hubris became a defining trait. She was a master of projection, but less adept at listening, less inclined to consider that her power could be challenged in ways she hadn't anticipated. The confrontation with Jasmine Crockett was, in many ways, the perfect storm for Mace's vulnerabilities. Here was someone composed, articulate, and unwavering, qualities that didn't simply counter Mace's points, but exposed the arrogance beneath her practiced exterior. Every dismissive gesture, every interruption, every attempted display of dominance risked backfiring, turning a demonstration of authority into a display of insecurity. Mace's track record had shown that she often relied on spectacle over substance, on bravado over empathy, on image over principle. Against opponents who respected the nuances of debate and wielded calm, deliberate composure, her usual tactics faltered, and Crockett, with her reputation for preparation, resilience, and moral clarity, presented a challenge unlike any Mace had encountered before. As the debate unfolded, it became clear that Mace was facing more than a single moment of opposition. She was confronting a mirror, one that reflected her own overconfidence and exposed the cracks in persona she had worked so hard to maintain. This was not merely a clash of ideas. It was a collision between arrogance and integrity, and the nation watching could sense the tension escalating with every passing second. And in that realization, Mace's confidence began to waver, setting the stage for a moment that would leave the entire country stunned. Jasmine Crockett's journey was defined by perseverance, resilience, and an unwavering commitment to justice. From her earliest days, she faced a world that often underestimated her, that doubted her abilities, and that tried to place limits on her potential. But Crockett never allowed those limits to define her. Every obstacle became a lesson, every challenge an opportunity to grow stronger. Her path to prominence was not paved by privilege. She worked tirelessly, balancing long hours of study, public service, and advocacy, always with a vision of giving a voice to those who have been silenced. Crockett understood the struggles of communities dismissed by power, and she carried their hopes with her into every room she entered. Her victories were not just personal. They were symbolic, a testament to what determination combined with integrity could achieve. Crockett's approach to public life was grounded in preparation and empathy. She knew that true influence came not from volume or intimidation, but from understanding, clarity, and the ability to stand unwaveringly for what is right. Every speech, every debate, every public engagement was informed by experience, research, and a deep sense of responsibility. She had faced skeptics before, silenced critics through knowledge and poise, and emerged stronger each time. By the time she faced Nancy Mace, Crockett had already honed the skills necessary to navigate high-pressure confrontations. She understood the power of composure, the impact of timing, and the strength inherent in measured responses. Her calm was not passive. It was strategic, rooted in confidence and moral clarity. She had learned to turn moments of potential intimidation into opportunities for demonstration of character, leaving audiences not just convinced, but inspired. As Crockett took her place in the debate, she carried the weight of experience and the clarity of purpose. She was not merely responding to an opponent. She was embodying a standard of integrity, resilience, and courage that resonated far beyond the stage. Every person watching, from the front row to viewers across the nation, could feel it. This was a leader who understood that true power is not taken. It is earned through steadfastness and truth. And in that moment, ready to confront Mace, Crockett's history and her preparation converged, setting the stage for a confrontation that would leave the country watching in awe. The debate hall was alive with tension. Every eye fixed on the stage where two political forces faced off. Nancy Mace leaned forward, her voice sharp, her gesture precise. She launched her first verbal jabs, aiming to unsettle Crockett, to test her composure under pressure. Each attack was calculated, delivered with confident edge that had intimidated many before. Crockett, however, remained unmoved. She absorbed the barbs with quiet precision, responding with measured clarity rather than heat. Her calm stood in stark contrast to Mace's aggression, creating a visible shift in the room. Every misstep by Mace, every interruption, every attempt to dominate the conversation only highlighted Crockett's unflinching steadiness. The audience felt the tension rise. Reporters leaned in, pens and cameras poised to capture every nuance. Social media feeds lit up in real time as viewers dissected the exchanges, anticipating the moment that would define the debate. Crockett's composure wasn't just tactical, it was mesmerizing. It forced the audience to recognize the contrast between true leadership and performative bravado. Mace tried to regain control, her attacks growing sharper, more pointed, almost desperate. But Crockett's responses were surgical, exposing flaws in Mace's arguments without raising her voice or breaking her rhythm. Each carefully chosen phrase landed with precision, slowly dismantling the aura of invincibility Mace had carried into the room. And then came the subtle build-up, the pause pregnant with anticipation. Crockett's expression hinted at the moment everyone had been waiting for. The room seemed to hold its breath as she prepared to deliver a line that would not just counter Mace's attacks, but redefine the balance of power on stage. It was no longer a debate about policy or point scoring. It had become a battle of character, a clash between arrogance and integrity. Every gesture, every glance, every word mattered. The audience, both in the room and across the country, could feel the impending shift, the precise moment when the scales would tip, when Crockett would turn defense into decisive victory. And as Mace braced herself, believing she still controlled the narrative, Crockett readied the one line that would leave the nation stunned, setting the stage for a moment history would remember. The moment arrived. Crockett leaned forward slightly, her eyes steady, her voice calm yet charged with undeniable authority. She didn't shout, she didn't gesture wildly. She let the weight of her words carry the power. Respect, she said, is earned through truth, not demanded through arrogance. The room went silent, every ear strained to catch the resonance of that single, precise statement. Mace's confident smirk faltered, replaced by a flicker of uncertainty. The one who had entered the debate believing she controlled the room was suddenly unmoored. Crockett's line didn't just counter her arguments. It exposed the arrogance, the performative dominance, the pretense of authority that Mace had relied on for so long. The audience reacted instantly. Gasps rippled across the room. Some leaned forward, stunned. Others whispered to their neighbors, repeating the line as though it had been seared into memory. Social media, already buzzing, ignited. Hashtags began to trend. Hashtag Crockett takes the lead. Hashtag truth over arrogance. Hashtag one-line victory. Clips of the moment were shared, replayed, dissected, and celebrated. Crockett didn't pause. She let the weight of the room's reaction settle before continuing, each word deliberate. She reframed the debate from attacks and dominance into a showcase of integrity and clarity. Every point she made afterward carried added impact because the audience had already witnessed the power of her composure and insight. Mace struggled to regain control. Her interruptions, once sharp and commanding, now sounded reactive, almost desperate. The contrast was stark. One leader grounded in principle, the other rattled by her own miscalculations. Crockett had shifted the narrative in the room, and soon the nation was watching the unraveling of authority that was built on style rather than substance. By the end of her response, the verdict was clear even before the judges tallied impressions. Crockett had won the room. She had turned potential attack into a defining moment, leaving Mace speechless and the audience in awe. The mic drop line had done more than silence an opponent. It had elevated Crockett into a symbol of calm, courageous, unshakable leadership, leaving a nation watching in stunned admiration. The moment Crockett's words landed, the impact rippled far beyond a debate stage. Cameras captured Mace's stunned expression, a visual that would dominate news cycles for days. Social media erupted immediately. Clips of the one-line takedown went viral, shared with captions like "the line that left Nancy Mace speechless" and "Jasmine Crockett proves truth beats arrogance." Hashtags began trending. Hashtag Crockett victory. Hashtag truth over power. Hashtag unshaken. Commentators scrambled to analyze what had just happened. Political analysts debated whether the singular moment had shifted the narrative entirely. Talk shows replayed the exchange, dissecting every pause, every glance, every word. Pundits marveled at Crockett's composure and strategic precision, noting how she had taken control of the room without raising her voice. But the strongest reaction came from ordinary viewers. Teachers, students, workers, immigrants, all those who had been told their voices didn't matter, saw themselves reflected in Crockett's courage. Her calm defiance became a symbol of resilience, proof that power built on arrogance can be challenged and dismantled. People shared the clip not just to celebrate a political victory, but to inspire one another to say, "You, too, can stand unshaken in the face of intimidation." Even Mace's supporters paused, realizing the impact of what had transpired. The narrative had shifted, and Crockett's line became more than a retort. It was a cultural moment. The nation, holding a collective breath, recognized that this was not just a debate win. It was a defining display of leadership, composure, and moral clarity that would resonate for months, if not years to come. And as the shockwave spread, the question lingered: how would this moment redefine the conversation about power, respect, and integrity in America? When the debate ended and the cameras stopped rolling, what remained was far more than a political victory. Jasmine Crockett had done something deeper. She had turned a confrontation into a lesson about courage, integrity, and the power of composure. Her one-line takedown wasn't just about winning against Nancy Mace. It was a statement that truth cannot be silenced and dignity cannot be intimidated. For viewers across the nation, Crockett became more than a politician. She became a symbol of what it means to stand unshaken in the face of arrogance. Her calm defiance showed that authority is not measured by loudness or aggression, but by clarity, preparation, and moral conviction. It reminded people that real power lies in resilience, in knowing when to speak and how to speak, and in holding fast to your principles no matter the pressure. The lesson resonated far beyond politics. It spoke to students, workers, immigrants, and anyone who had ever been told to stay quiet or accept less than they deserved. Crockett's victory proved that courage is contagious, and that a single voice, delivered with clarity and confidence, can inspire millions. And as the nation reflected on the moment, one truth stood clear: integrity outshines arrogance, composure overcomes intimidation, and those who refuse to bow become a guiding light for everyone watching. Jasmine Crockett's one-line takedown of Nancy Mace left the nation stunned, proving that courage and integrity always outshine arrogance. This wasn't just a debate moment. It was a lesson in standing unshaken, speaking truth, and commanding respect. At Argument Arena, we celebrate moments like these that inspire, empower, and challenge the status quo. If you believe in amplifying voices that refuse to be silenced, subscribe, share, and join the movement. Be part of a community that values truth, resilience, and moral courage. The story doesn't end here. Your voice matters too.